This show is brought to you by DF Studios Limited. Whether you're a business owner or entrepreneur, DF Studios will guide and assist you on the best ways to promote your brand digitally, in addition to creating visitor and customer generating content like blogs, social media posts, videos, and even podcasts like this one you're listening to right now. Visit dfstudiosltd.com or hit up info@dfstudiosltd.com for more info. So I will start off with the Fabelmans, right? This is the newest film from the icon, the myth, the legend himself, Steven Spielberg, right?
Right.
Um, and I'll confess something, right? I did not watch the trailer for this. I was out, like, for some reason, I just kind of tell myself I want to go into this one blind. I didn't want to go in with expectations too high because I know it's Spielberg, right? I know it's Spielberg, right? I could trust Spielberg when it comes to his releases, right? But there was something kind of special about this. I wanted to go in as blind as possible, right? What I didn't know going in is that this is actually sort of a semi autobiographical story about his life, right? And that is exactly what it is, right? So it's in a nutshell what it is, right? So it is about Steven's life, right? But in this case, when I call them the Spielbergs, I call the family the Spielbergs, it's the Fabelmans, right? So it introduced to Samuel, right? Who is Steven, right? We see him as a kid. We see actually actually a great choice, a great way to open the film actually. The first movie that he sees, right, with his parents, right? And you could see how amazed he is by the images that he sees on screen. It actually goes as far as him trying it out at home with these toys, and then eventually his mom actually gets him a camera, so he's trying it out for himself. And this makes for all these great moments that him as a kid, like he's like about 8 or 9, and he's making 60mm films, with his 3 sisters, right? Well, 2 sisters actually, and then eventually as he gets older, he gets another sister, right? But yeah. But what the show really touches on is his parents, right? So we have Mitzi, who is played by Michelle Williams. There's a lot of Oscar buzz surrounding she. Believe me, she could get an easy Best Actress Oscar dub. I believe she already get nominated for a Golden Globe as well too, and much deserved, I must say, right? And we see his dad Bert, who is played by Paul Dano. I didn't even know he was in this. Like I watch his face, like, oh shit, that's Paul. Like, hey, bro. And it's so funny, right? Because like just months ago he was this creepy psychopath in the Batman. Now he's this warm and endearing father, right? But yeah, and yes, both are based off of Steven's real life parents who actually passed away, right? Well, his dad actually passed away in 2020, and Steven actually dedicated West Side Story, which came out last year, which was one of my top 10 favorite movies. He actually dedicated that to him, right? His mom actually passed away 3 years before the dad, right? So I did that. I just watched this thing. I thinking, oh, it's just gonna be about him as a kid, and him just being more and more enamored by film and having to deal with his family, right? I'll get to the family dynamic in a bit, right? But then actually, it cuts him being a teenager, and then he gets just like a few years older, and it actually stops there, right? But and you do see, how his filmmaking skills have improved, right? There's actually a great moment involving him, and he's, with these Boy Scouts there, and he actually makes films, right? So he actually makes both a war and a Western film actually while he's there, right? And he just uses these creative tricks to, to emphasize, muzzle flare, from the guns and all that kind of stuff there. So you could see the experimentation taking place and just how passionate he is about film, right? But what happens is that, and it's so funny, I didn't even know that he was in this as well. We have, well, Bert's best friend, Benny, right? So they actually work at this company, right? And yeah, and well, the whole idea is that Bert and Benny are best friends. So Benny shows up ever so often. The daughters, well, Bert's daughters usually call him uncles. It's like, yeah, he's a family friend, right? And he's actually played by Seth Rogen of all people. Like, what? You this? Okay. And of course, he is a goofball and he cracks jokes and whatnot, right? But yeah, and he was actually he was shockingly good at this, right? And I mean, I'm not the biggest Seth Rogen fan. I don't think that he makes trash, right? But sometimes he just kind of falls into the whole I'm a goofy stoner. But in this case, no, like he was like seriously acting. But I like that Steven actually gives him the chance to be silly and be fun and whatnot, right? But yeah, what happens? And at times while I was watching this, I was actually questioning if it literally did happen in Steven's actual life because
Right.
I don't really know much about his early beginnings. I actually should read it up. I actually have like an audiobook about Steven Spielberg's life and career. I should actually check that out, right? But yeah. Um, yeah, there's some tension within the family now, with the father and mother, because yeah, it's up there. It's assumed that it's kind of uh more or less realized, or I should say more or less proven. Sorry, that yeah, Mitzi and Benny are an item, right? So they more or less cheated behind Bert's back, right? And Bert, just being this workaholic, is trying just to kind of block it out. He keeps moving the family from place to place. So eventually they move them over to Ellie now, which is funny because that's around the time when Samuel is now a teenager. He's now going into college, and that's where he's actually considering going into Hollywood and starting his film career, right? But what I really love here is that it kind of touches, it kind of affects his passion and his career, like him just being a filmmaker, because he kind of finds it hard to concentrate and knowing that there's all this chicanery going on with his family, right?
Right.
And there's actually a moment involving his uncle, right, who is played by Judd Hirsch. I didn't even know he was going to be in this. Like, what? Judd Hirsch. Okay, okay, okay. And yeah, he's played on the Jewisms a lot though. But yeah, he was great in this, right? Yeah, he shows up and pretty much, more or less gives him this big conceit, this big, existential question, right? The whole idea about art, right? And if it's worth it, right? If it's worth the sacrifice. Because yeah, he's there and he notices how passionate that, Samuel is to film, right? But now he kind of questions him, like, how far are you gonna go with this sacrifice? And he pretty much tells him that, yeah, you know what I mean, you're gonna go all into this if you want to, but just understand that you're gonna lose out on a lot of things. You're gonna have to sacrifice a lot of things. You will miss out on a lot of things, right? And you'll feel as if like you're missing out a lot in life, Trey, because of this path that you've chosen, right? And yeah, throughout the show, you really see how that affects Samuel, right? And how he pretty much has to figure out his way going forward, not just in terms of his career, but with his family, right? Just staying with them and whatnot, right? And I'll stop here. So I went into this blind, right? I just knew that it was about Steven's childhood, and it's about the power of film and all that kind of stuff, right? And I was there thinking like it's going to be some sort of like cinema parody show kind of thing, where
Right.
it's all about the power of cinema and how these movies impact our lives, right? But really, what it is, though, and it took me a while to catch it, right? And then afterwards, I just I just sort of thought about it for a while, and it just sort of clicked more the more I think about it. It's just really about art. It's really about,
Yep.
when we find something we create, that we're really passionate about now, and we want to pursue this, right? And it's not just because of the money. It's just because this is my calling. Deep down inside, this is what you want to do, right? But I mean that this is true, right? And I would say that if you are a creative, if you call yourself an artist, boy, you will relate to Samuel's story, right? Even if you're not Jewish, or if you're not from the States, or if you're not lucky enough to move to LA and be amongst the filmmakers and whatnot, right? But you can relate to the idea of life just coming and just hitting you over the head at times and reminding you, boy, I know you have this dream, you have this passion, but look at your family, look at what they're going through. Look at your life, Joe. Look at what you're going through, right? So, like, even wow, like when he moves to LA now, right? He's going through like this anti-Semitic stuff from these bullies, right? They
Right.
making fun of him because he's Jewish and all that kind of stuff, right? He's trying to hook up with a girl, but the girl is like this over-conservative Christian, right? And he always kind of warning if she kind of making fun of him behind his back and all that kind of stuff there, right? And the beauty about this show here too is that you can see like how Steven was able to explore these things in his filmography, right? Whether it's the idea of divorce, like say with E.T., or anti-Semitism with I almost say Jurassic Park, with Schindler's List, even the war, like him wanting to make a war film so bad because of his families. I believe like one of his relatives was involved in the war, something like that. With easily one of his one of his infamous flops, 1941, right? So you could see how like just these little moments in his life kind of like how he was able to channel those moments and reflect those on screen with his films, right? You can really see that here, right? But what I do like though is that and the show could have easily fall into that trap, right? Where it could have just been this overly pretentious worship of Steven Spielberg and called him this god of filmmaking and all that kind of stuff. So yes, every little moment that we see here has to be some sort of callback or reference
Right.
to like
Totally.
something
Yeah.
that he did in the future, right? So
Right.
no, you're not gonna see no reference to Jurassic Park. No, you're not gonna see no reference to Minority Report, right?
What
Like no, it's not like
what
that,
movie
right?
did that? But it was a joke. Oh, the Weird Al movie. Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, right. You see how in
Yeah.
that case they did that for kicks, right?
Yeah.
In
Right.
in this case, like no. It's just we just see this slice of life look at this director here, and we just see what he went through, his experiences, and how that potentially affected him in the future, right? There's actually a great bit. I'm not gonna say how it happens or where it leads to, right? Where they kind of touch on the biopic as well too, because he actually does this while he's at the college now, right? He actually does well. Okay, at this point in time is the early '60s, so beach rock was a thing, right? So they actually do this thing where some of the students went to the beach and it was liming for a day, so he filmed all that kind of stuff, right? And he actually zeroed in on one of the guys who was bullying him, right? And the guy like show up to him afterwards, right? And like real talking down to him and saying, like, dog, like I know people see me as this real popular guy who's like, always with the chicks, always popular with the chicks and whatnot, and I could run fast, right? Because in this case now, like they show him have doing a race, and like how Steven like films it, right? And just basic filmmaking stuff and using appropriate music and all that kind of stuff to heighten the scene, right? But the guy just can't see himself as this hero, as this godlike character that is shown on screen. Like he just can't accept that, right? And in a way, I kind of saw that as like somebody who is like a biopic is made of them. I just kind of look at it like, no, that's not me. Like I know that's how people see me, that's how the world see me, but that's not how I see myself, right? And it's just a weird kind of meta kind of thing. But I really dug how it was subtle, but you could tell like how that kind of impact his, how he treats, subject matter, like based on true events and whatnot, right? So speaking of that, just to jump into the review here, right? This movie actually like really caught me by surprise though. Like I didn't expect that it was going to go this in depth into Steven's life, right? And what I love here is that it could easily could have just been all right, and all these experiences, why I am a god of filmmaking, and this is why you must regard me as one of the best, right? You know what I mean? What I like is that the show actually like sort of demystifies, the image of Steven Spielberg. Yeah, here he's just a ordinary person. He's just like you and me, right? Especially those who want to be part of of the world of film, right? Yeah, you could totally relate to his passion and how he's playing with the camera and how he's doing all these short films and all that kind of stuff. You could relate to that, right? And even if you're not into film and all that too, whether you're into painting or artwork or whatever it is, right? Or music, you can relate to just having just that one passion. It's something that you love and just continuing, right? And it can also relate to, yeah, just how life just come and smack you in the face and tell you, boy, that not important, boy. You gotta go to school, and that important. You gotta get a job, and look at what your family going through. You gotta be there for them. Why you studying your future, Dread? Like, and even the future and all too. Like, you sure you gonna have a career in film? What if you don't have a plan B? What I mean? And all that kind of stuff. That the show touches on that as well too. It doesn't beat you over the head with it, but you can tell those are the dilemmas that the character goes through, right? Speaking of character, acting wise, everybody crushes it, right? Gabriel LaBelle, I think this is the first time I've seen him on screen though. He was great as Samuel, right? You buy into him not just as a young 16-year-old Steven Spielberg, but yeah, just as a kid, just trying to figure out the world, just trying to figure out why he's going through all these things in his life, even though he assumes, and even though like he is in a fairly like normal family, like everything is seems to be okay. Like he has loving parents, he and he loves his sisters, all that kind of stuff, and he has a passion. You think that everything is okay, right? And I'm moving to this state and that state. Okay, that's cool, right? But then eventually realize that the father is clearly running away from his problems. He just can't deal with what's going on with the mom as well too. And you can see how that slowly affects his life and well the life of the rest of the children as well too, right? Also just to touch on acting as well, Michelle Williams. yeah, she's a shoe-in for Best Actress, but she was great in this. I love how she plays a character, very nuanced as well, very complex, as I should say. It is the emotions that she goes through, right? Because one thing that the show doesn't touch, well, the show kind of hints on it, right? But again, I don't know too much about Spielberg's background. Mental illness. It's kind of clear that his mom was going through some sort of mental illness in a sense, especially with the way how she's dealing with the thing with with Benny and with her husband and all that kind of stuff. Just how she reacted, yeah, I could tell that there was something off about her with that, right? I love how Michelle kind of shows the complexities there, right? Paul Dano is actually great as well too as Bud. You really do buy him as this loving dad in the 50s who just wants to do right by his family. And I mean, something we could totally relate to, the workaholic dad, you know what I mean? He just always has to be working. And I
Right.
mean, he's doing a great job, right? And you could tell that he's providing for his family, right? But it's almost to the point that he just uses work as an excuse. Like, I have to do this for the family, but you're not addressing the elephant in the room, right? That is the whole infidelity stuff, right? I mentioned Seth Rogen before as great as well, right? Judd Hirsch, as I mentioned as well, too, was great with his bit, right? There is a bit at the end, boy. I'm not going to see who it is, boy, but it's a famous director that shows up, right? Playing a famous director. And I would say, like, that moment, hands down, is one of the best things I've seen this year. It is something that I imagine is on YouTube right now. It's one of those bits that you will go back to if ever you need that extra motivation, if ever you need that extra inspiration, right? It's essentially the director talking to Steven, right? And actually, I found out that actually was based on true events. Like, it did happen when he started working on in this Hollywood. Well, actually, he started working on a TV show. Believe it or not, I didn't even know he worked behind the scenes of Hogan's Heroes. I did not
Okay.
even know that,
Right.
right? But I should do more research and see if he actually stuck around, if he actually worked throughout the entirety of that show's run, or if he was just into it for a while. I don't really know. I really should look up his backstory, right? But yeah, that bit was great, boy, and especially because I didn't even know who the actor was, and then when I saw the name at the end, I was like, holy fuck, that's you! And then I run back to see it, I was like, yep, that is him, and I love that.
Right.
It's just great, boy, and it's just how he delivers. It's just like a more or less him giving advice to Steven, right? But it's abstract and it's weird, and if you know the director, yeah, it's appropriate. But it's just so on the it's just so concise, so blunt, and yet it tells you so much about art and how you should view art and how you should be an artist as well, too, right? And yeah, totally love that scene, right? Direction, of course, is Steven Spielberg, right? So you're gonna get great visuals throughout as well, right? I love that it's not as flashy as his other films and whatnot. Yes, there'll be a lens flare ever so often, but other than that, though, you do get the sense of just the warmth of of the times, right? Yeah, because yeah, they're pretty much moving into different areas, and it's mostly natural light as well too. But just how Steven was able to replicate that was great. And just from a cinematography standpoint as well too. Yeah, it just looked great, right? The music, of course, is done by John Williams because, of course, and yes, the score fit is pretty great as well, right? It doesn't stand out amongst his most memorable ones, but as far as the tone for what they're going for, it fits, right? And yeah, at the end of the day, I did not expect to get this coming of age family drama from a guy like Spielberg, right? Because when it comes to him, usually you get stuff that's pretty extraordinary and spectacular, right? And stuff that's worth spending money to see in theaters, right? As for whether I would have enjoyed it in theaters, because yeah, because believe it or not, we actually got this. It actually showed in one cinema for 1 weekend, and that's really sad though. But haven't seen the film, I can understand because I can understand some people go into this thing expecting, I don't know, more humor or maybe more flash or something, but you don't really get that here. And I could see some people being a little let down by it, especially if they go in blind, right? But because of me, because I kind of had a marginal sense of what to expect, and because I was just so drawn into the story, I really enjoyed this one. And for me, just in closing, why this show really clicked for me the most is because of how it explores artistry, right? And what
Yeah.
it means to be an artist, what it means to be passionate about something. And again, just life coming and tell you, nah, that's not important, boy. That's not important. You should focus on this and that, right? And the one big takeaway with this, though, and it's one that I want to always remember, right, when I think about this show, right, is that it's not like Stephen went through trials and tribulations. It's like he went through a set of hell, right? But stuff like this, like especially with his parents and all that too, yeah, that's the kind of stuff that will leave me disillusioned. And I'll just be like, yeah, like what's the point of doing all this, right? If in the real world this is what I have to face, right? And you see that how that affects his relationship, right? With the same, overly conservative, girl that he hooks up with, right? But yeah, at the end of the day, man, the man still managed to stick it out, right? And now he is regarded as one of the greatest directors of all time, right? So I would say above everything else, this movie is like just inspirational, right? Like this
Right.
shockingly inspirational, but again, I just love that it just gives you this look into this guy's life. It demystifies the image and the allure of him, and it shows him as just this normal kid who's just trying to figure things out, right? And this kind of learning that there's some things you just can't control, and despite all the ups and downs of life, trend, sometimes you just have to stay on that path. You just have to keep going because, I mean, who knows what will happen to you, right? And I mean, in Steven's case, the rest is history, right? Ultimately, while I was not over the moon with this movie, like I don't love on this show as much as many people do, for what it is about and the messages of it, and especially just the warm family vibe of the show as well too, which is something I did not even expect from a guy like Spielberg, right? Yeah, this totally worked for me, man. So I wound up really appreciating and loving the film overly, just for what it was about, man. So yeah, rating wise, I'm gonna give this a strong 4 to 5, man. I would say that if you are artists, if you love film, or if you want to be a filmmaker, or if you just want to know just the behind the scenes of of what it was to be Steven Spielberg, yes, definitely check it out. And even if you're not a Spielberg fan, boy, again, if you just understand the idea of being an artist and the ups and downs of that, yeah, this show will relate to you in more ways than one, man. This will be in my best stuff for sure. Not as high as many people have it there. Like people have it as top 10, but that I would have this as top 10 personally, right? But this is a show that I definitely will be remembered for a while by. And last thing before we move forward now, I'm just really glad that Steven was able to make this, right? I guess that because I read, behind the scenes that he had this idea from since the late 90s, right?
Right.
But I guess that he just had to go through a lot in life, right? Like I guess he just had to be in the right place in his life to make a film like this, right? Something so personal and so real to him, right? It's unfortunate that it had to be after his parents, after they passed away. But you could tell with every shot of this, with every frame of this, right, that this is just a loving tribute to his parents and his family, right? Because yeah, for better or for worse, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't even know this guy. He wouldn't be the person that he is, and the revered director that we know and love, man. So yeah, I'm just glad that he was able to get this out of his system. But yeah, the Fabelmans is the real deal. Expect to hear this around Oscar season. And yeah, this is easily one of the year's best films, man. So yes, I wholeheartedly recommend checking it out. And sticking with Universal and the greatness continues, let me talk about the Banshees of Inisherin, right?
Sure.
So Ricardo, if you don't mind, I want you to do the synopsis first, right? So this was one that I went in blind for this one, right? All I knew is just the director, Martin McDonagh, and I know Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson were in this. And this is actually the second time that all three are meeting back up, because the first time was for this film called In Bruges, which I still haven't seen. And after seeing this, I was like, all right, I have to make it a must to see this way, especially because I know In Bruges is, one of the best anti-Christmas movies, out there. And, like for me, when it comes to like the Christmas season, I like the balance. I like to watch the Christmassy stuff and the anti-Christmassy stuff, right? I like the balance it out, right? But yeah, after seeing this, I was like, yeah, boy, what was I miss? How can I miss In Bruges, boy? But I'm actually gonna check this out, for the Christmas holidays, right? But yeah, I went in completely blind to this too, but I was just hearing nothing but praise for this, boy. Nothing but praise, right? But yeah, Ricardo, take it away. Well, I should say, right, before you jump into the synopsis, right? You knew anything at all about this show, or you just checked out because
I heard a couple of things about it. That I didn't go in blind. But it's mostly Colin Farrell. I know Colin Farrell was in it, so I know thing is yeah.
Right. And also
this movie so Irish it missing Colmini and Saoirse Ronan, right?
Yeah, boy. Also, it took me a hot minute to realize who it is. Kerry Condon from Better Call Saul. She was in it. She was
Yeah.
Colin's sister. And
Right.
yeah, you was hearing the Irish boy, like I knew she was Irish, yeah, but you was hearing that accent, boy. Like she just let she Irish flag fly through
Yeah.
that whole performance, boy. My God. But yeah, Ricardo, what is the Banshees of Inisherin about?
Okay, so yeah, it's right around the early 1920s. I think the Irish Civil War is now wrapping up, and
Mm-hmm.
basically, Colm Doherty is begins just for arbitrarily. This is arbitrarily start ignoring his friend. Um, oh gosh, I can't pronounce these
Oh,
Irish names, but
Patriarch. I
well,
assume that's how it's pronounced, right? I
well,
could be
I
wrong,
just seen a word, but Irish words is like a whole pronunciation.
you know?
Patrick, I assume
Or
Patrick.
Patrick. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think, yeah.
not gonna pronounce that finale.
Oh, that's the name? No, 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 no,
Sulbane.
no.
I don't know, but
No,
I
yeah.
don't have it up already. Um, yeah. So yeah, he ignoring him, and he say he don't like him anymore. He keep thinking about that. They bounced off each other, kind of following him around, and oh, we boy from Eternals was in this too, right? He was the
Yes, yes,
yeah, yeah,
Barry Keoghan.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Keoghan, right? Yeah.
yeah. Right.
Yes, that's
So
him. Right, right, right. I now remember the face. Yes, you're right.
so Patrick, yeah. So his sister Siobhan, um, she is right trying to sort out the situation between two of them, and he have to finish a tune, and then they get into a whole thing with somebody. Jenny is found dead, and Patrick blames Colm for Jenny's death, and there's a whole drama, and basically it just slowly turns to from love to hate to revenge story to drama, and it just builds from there. And I thought it was a little slow, but it plays very good. It's shot beautiful. Especially there's a shot late in the film that is absolutely lovely, involving a house and well, it's state. That's all you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing it compared to the background in the nighttime or the dusk was like wow, shot,
Oh, yes,
yeah,
you're right.
shot point. Basically it's just a story that involving characters and involving a donkey and sheep shears and basically just the idea of friends, people turning to enemies and back and forth and whatnot. I didn't absolutely love this, but it was pretty damn good. Like, just was I really got into it. I like the character work and what it was trying to say and do. Um, it really gets into unfortunate. Like, it's a very tragic story. Like what they do with it and especially what happens to oh gosh the boy who's taking care of the sheep now Kenny.
Oh, him.
Uh,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah,
We,
yeah,
we,
yeah.
we don't want to spoil anything on that, but yeah,
Right,
it's
right,
it's
right, right.
track.
Yeah, yeah. But they make it really work. And yeah, it's just who everybody coming together and yeah, Farrell and Gleason, they hold it. They real hold it. The two of them are great against each other, bouncing off each other. Kerry Condon was pretty good. She was a nice little side person. And then the little side people was pretty good. The priests and the cop, and then how they relate to each other with respect to uh the church. I mean, is Ireland, so you had to deal with a Catholic church somewhere, and so on and so forth. It just really came together well, and this is just so well made, and so you could tell that this was done a hot minute. Like they clearly planned this out, going a while. It's pitch black comedy, but it also does the tragedy well and balances it very very well. Yeah, I didn't expect this to be as good as it was, but it was pretty damn good. But I still didn't love it. Like I don't know, it didn't rope me in as much as I felt it could have. I don't know, but it's still pretty damn good.
All right. Well, y'all might be surprised with this way, but I ended up loving this movie, boy.
Yeah,
But I'll tell you
I'm
what,
not
right?
surprised.
I'll tell you what, right? Um, I did not expect to connect with this movie as much as I did, boy, but I did, right? Because it's really just the world of Inisherin, right? And what
Yeah,
Inisherin is actually is this island off of Ireland, right? That's what it is. I don't know
yeah,
if it's a real island. I don't think it is, to be honest, right? But yeah.
okay,
Um, but just the world of this place though just hit close to home for me, boy, because what
yeah,
it is, right? It just essentially have these two characters, right? Who just that's patriarch, if you got the name wrong, forgive us, right? And Combe, right? They're so settled in this place, right? That literally every day plays out the exact same way, right?
yeah,
And that's Colin Farrell's character. He just believes that, all right, as long as I just be this nice guy, life is carefree, right? And you have his sister who just pretty much saying, like, you can't just be doing this all the time. Like 2 o'clock, you're going by the pub and drinking every single day. You don't want to do something else to your life, Jen. And he's like, no, because I'm comfortable, right? And she actually wants them to do something for herself, right? And thank God she actually does, right? But I do love how you have the framing of the Civil War in the background, right?
Right.
Although as a slight gripe, they don't really touch on it too much. Well, although it's intentional. It's almost like, because literally the people in the islands are like, yeah, the war's still going on, right? But yeah, we really don't really know what they're fighting for. We don't know.
Right.
Probably some
Yes.
IRA stuff. I don't know.
No,
They just kind of
I
did.
come after, but yeah.
Right. Well, no, actually, a character mentions IRA in the film, right? They
Okay,
actually
no
do.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the cop, because there's a moment where he actually get hired. Well, actually, the proposition now to go and do some work there. That's all I'll say. And
Right.
he does mention IRA stuff, right? But anyway, and but she still like goes and does it, right? I love that, right? But yeah, and then you have Combe now, who just like, all right, I want to do something else with my life too. Like, I can't just be sitting down doing nothing. Like, I mean, I could play the violin or fiddle very well, so I'm gonna actually compose a tune, right? There's actually a great moment involving him talking to Colin's character and talking about, yeah, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, we'll be forgotten when we're gone, right? But music, you're gonna remember music, right? And there's a great, like, humorous bit involving Mozart. That's all I'll say. But that was a really, really smart bit, right? A really clever bit of writing there, right? So you could kind of relate to where he's coming from, where it's like, right, like, I just here, I want to do something because nothing's happening, right? So again, just relating to this, right? So I'm not saying like I am calm and there's a patriarch, in my life, right? But I can relate to the idea of, all right, you're weighing me down, go away from me, leave me alone, you're not doing anything with your life. If I stay with you for a long period of time, I could just end up being complacent, because I'm already complacent as is, right? But I could be even worse off if I stay with you. So yeah, at first, him just shooing off Colin's character, it's played for laughter. And it is pretty funny when you think about it. Like, you just like, no, just go away, right? But I was like, it just catch me by surprise, how far and how long it goes for. And it's kind of weird, it's kind of off-putting, but at the same time, it's pretty hilarious, right? And not in a, for me, like, not in a funny haha kind of way, but funny like just me smiling and shaking my head, like, yeah, I know people like this. I know people like that, right? But yeah, just this idea of people who just going nowhere, doing nothing, who just kind of, they can't see the forest for the trees, and they're just kind of stuck there. They if they even think about stepping out, oh well, what about the war and all that kind of stuff? It's like, no, just kind of do something else with your life, Dread. That I absolutely relate to, Dread. I could understand, Dread. I could understand where both Colin and Brendan's characters coming from, right? Where Colin feeling that, all right, if I just play things safe and I just be this nice person, people will always remember me for being nice, right? But look at how far that really took you, right? Literally nowhere, right? And Colm himself now talking about wanting to make this tune, and the man have the talent and whatnot, right? But because he just so hard pressed and seeing it, just getting rid of any distractions and whatnot, and you see how far that goes, right? It makes for some really absurd and really dark humor. Yeah, it worked for me, man, right? And yeah, at the end of the day, it's really just these two characters going through through their versions of just existential crisis. Just more or less realize that yes, death will creep up on them, and what are they going to think about themselves when they go? I would just go into the bar every single day at 2 o'clock. Like that's really what people gonna remember, me for when I go. And it's those kind of questions. But I like that the show doesn't tell you that, but you have to sort of figure it out, right?
Right.
Also, what the show kind of touches on too much of my surprise, again, mental illness, right? I love how this in terms of Combs' character, because how far he goes in terms of distancing himself from his ex-friend, though. Yeah, it's kind of insane though, right?
Yeah.
It's really extreme, way. And what I would say without spoiling it's the detriment to his goal, right? And yeah, again, it's just the dark humor of the show, but I just love that. It comes off weird at first, but it's just like, yeah, I can understand that, right? But yeah, because think about the period of it, right? Like, it's not like they have the internet, it's not like they have therapists they could go to if they're going through problems. The one person who kind of seems to give a shit is Colin's sister, right? But even Coleman's, and he actually talks to her at some point at a couple of scenes in the movie, but still it's just like, now you understand why I feel in this way. You understand why I will go as far as I am going, right? she does actually kind of get it, right? Even though she doesn't see it. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's really nobody here to help this guy. So yeah, he just going through this hurt, and you don't really know what the hurt is. And I assuming, this is my speculation, kind of blames Colin's character for him feeling this depressed. I feel like he just using him as an avatar to just throw all of his depression onto, right? Even though he
Right.
kind of wants to distance himself from it, right? And even with Colin himself, be him just kind of wondering why my friend don't want to talk to me anymore and all that kind of stuff. The whole that goes though. I love how that plays, and especially in the end now as well, right? You mentioned this old woman as well too being around. Some people speculate that she may be a personification of death. And like the more I
Right.
think about it, kind of makes sense because yeah, she'd have just been living on this island for long periods of time and just seeing these characters, yeah, just kind of slowly waste away, right? And even she kind of comes and more or less kind of tells us what's gonna happen, right? But that's all I'll say, right? Yeah, you could see death on this island, right? And then you could understand why Kerry Condon's character just does not want any part to play with it, right? Even the title of it of the film and all feels rather ironic as well too, right? The Banshees of Inisherin, right? Because there's a bit where he actually says the title, right? And then they say, well, we don't have any banshees here, right? But when you think about it, banshees, right? What they're known for, right? For vocals, right? For screaming and whatnot, right? For wailing, right? But you don't hear any wailing. You don't hear anybody really singing anything on this island. Everybody kind of keeps
Right.
things to themselves, right? And that's the irony of the film right there, right? So like, yeah, people should be speaking, or people should be trying to do something different, but nobody's saying anything because everybody want to be all complacent, right? And that's the real irony behind this film. And again, I could absolutely relate to that, right? The acting, great, across the board. Colin is great as just this lovable loser. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And yeah, he's a loser, boy, right? But where his character evolves, though, I totally love as well, especially in the end. And it feels plausible. It feels really realistic, right? Brendan, right? His detachment from the world is hilarious, but at the same time, it's really sad as well too.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that half. It's kind of a sort of a bittersweet viewpoint of it too, right? And yeah, I mean, you could just buy into this character just not wanting anything to do with Colin Farrell, right? And yes, when they're together on screen, what I mean, they just knock it out of the park, right? I just love again, just in terms of the world of this place, right? Even though Colm trying to avoid this guy, right? You see how they just like casually running, how easily they just run into each other.
Yeah.
That's to show how small this island is, right? Like he
Yeah. It's
just
like
step out to go a place and yeah,
but
just run into you, and it's like no,
it's basically Tobago. I mean,
yeah,
probably even smaller than
exactly,
that. It's just yeah.
yeah,
It's just
yeah, yeah.
everybody know everybody, and so when you're bitter, you're stuck with them. That kind of thing.
Exactly. And I love how the show explores that as well too, right? Kerry Condon was great as well too. She's like the voice of reason in all of this though.
Yeah.
I like how she is, although it's kind of sad how she ends up being motivated to do something better with her life though. But yeah, just kind of calling them out and saying like, why are they being so stupid? Like and nothing ever happens on this island, you know what I mean? And just being so frustrated. Again, I can relate to that, boy. I didn't expect to see Barry Keoghan in this as well too, but his character of Dominic was funny as well too. At first, I thought he was just the loser, right? Like the real loser, right? While like and it's actually a bit involving Colin himself thinking that Barry's character is the loser. Like, oh, you think I'm trash? Look at Dominic, right? But yeah, even Dominic and all hurting too, Dread. I'm not gonna say how, right? But yeah, and it makes for some really like heartbreaking moments. Like at first you watch it was like, oh, he just looked goofy because he faced and all that kind of stuff. But where that all led up to, boy, it catch me by surprise. And well, we'll see without spoiling it, right? There's a object, right, that's set up early on, Dread. And they're like, all right, well, okay, why are they put this object? Why are they making a big deal about this object, right? And then it comes back up near the end, but I was just like, wow, boy, like, oh, let's set that
Yeah.
up, and I didn't even see that, Way, wow. That was hard. That was hard, right? Cinematography. If it's one thing to take away from this show, is how gorgeous this movie looks. But you see, it's beautiful and it's also dismal at the same time too, way. And the cinematography nails that very well, right? Direction strong as well, right? And well, Martin actually wrote the script as well, right? And I really love the script for this. I also, yeah, I mean, it's Irish, right? So I had to give points for them just sticking to the accent, making it feel really authentic. They say feck a lot, and there's a lot of bits of them just saying feck and feckin', right? And it just makes the dialogue not only sound humorous, but also sound sort of melodic in a sense, right? Yeah, there's like a sort of like musical way tone to the way how they speak to each other, right? And it totally works. It feels very authentic and real, right? But it's just where the story went to. And yes, I would admit it is a slow burn, right? But if you stick it through, boy, yeah, the payoff is absolutely worth it, right? Again, just going back to the whole complacency thing and just these characters just not knowing where to go and just kind of realize like, wow, that's gonna come first eventually, and we're pretty much stuck here. Wow, right? So it's bleak, it's dark, boy, but I can relate to this so much, boy. And yeah, I just found myself loving this movie. I just did not expect to love the show as much as I did, right? I went in completely blind to this, right? And yes, I could see why people praise this movie so much, why it's nominated for Golden Globes and eventually it's going to be nominated for Oscars, right? I could see this as a Best Picture, nominee for sure, man. If it wins, I'd be pretty happy. I'd be pretty happy, right? But it has to win something. It has to win something, right? And yeah, everybody came through and did their damn thing, man. So rating wise, decent or strong 4.5 out of 5. I'm going pretty high with this, man. Right? I really, really love this one. And again, it just spoke to me and I can relate to this stuff in more ways than one way. And yeah, boy, this is a real deal, boy. I mean, I can't recommend the show enough. This is potentially a top 10 for me. I can't say it's top 10 right now, boy, but yeah, easily one of the year's best films, man, hands down. So Ricardo, final thoughts and rating.
Yeah, I don't like it as much as you did, but it still really worked for what it is and in terms of execution, mostly because of just how funny it was. It just like the style of humor, it clearly a bunch of like Irish humor I didn't get. But I got enough of the humor for it to work really well for me. Yeah, again, Gleeson and Farrell really good together. I mean, yeah, holy shit, Colin Farrell have like 2 great movies this year, right? This and Batman, right? What else he had?
No, I think that's it. I think that's it for the year. That's it for the year, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Colin, by respect,
fantastic.
man. Two great films on your belt, bro.
Yeah. Great performances, excellent. Whatnot. Yeah. I just I dug it for what it was. All I'll say is I've seen it before. Not done better, but I've just seen it before, and so it didn't blow my mind or like, wait, it's a real deep story or anything like that. But it was good, pretty damn good. Rating, I'll give it like an 8 out of 10 actually. Mostly because of that cinematography. I mean, that shot at the end, it's Guy's house now. I need to.
Yes. Yeah. The closing shot for this boy. Like it's okay, like yes, we talking about scenery and whatnot, yeah, but trust me, that closing shot is one of the best things I've seen for the year.
Yeah, Jordan.
One of the best things, yeah.
And I appreciated it. I appreciated it on that level. It just really, but yeah, it didn't stick with me as much as I thought it could have. And not like you, because you seem to have really enjoyed it. So agreed. But I didn't stick with me as much. But I still give it like a very high score, like an 8 out of 10, closer to a 9 actually, more like a 8.5, closer to a 9. But yeah, this was really, really well done, and I could see it getting nominated and even winning the best of the year. But yeah, pretty good, pretty solid stuff.
Right.